All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Weplay. We should call like Weplay websites or something. I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna brand that, but
Okay.
We'll work it
Well,
out.
Yeah. Have a team meeting.
so this site is called Best Graphic Designs. It's a graphic designer's website right here in Perth, Western Australia. Um, First impressions straight away.
My first impression is the logo. This is just like from a branding perspective, because that's what I'm here for. The logo is kind of confusing because it's kind of more like DGB than B. Like the way that you're supposed to read it is strange. That's just something that I comment on. Other than that, the layout's pretty generic.
Kel?
Yeah, it's quite plain. I also agree with that logo because I read it as BDG first time,
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
and then the D is backwards, isn't
No.
it? Is the D backwards
No,
or
I
is it
think
upside down or?
that little cut off bit is just kind of supposed to denote like the top of the D. Oh no, I can see what you
okay.
mean. Like, yeah, you would think it would be upside down, but
If you didn't see this bit, this best graphic design bit, let's
Yeah.
forget you see that. I would have thought this says bog.
yeah,
Bog.
that
fair
I
enough.
can see that. Or like OGB. Yeah, it's yeah. I guess like yeah.
Yeah, it's quite difficult if you don't have the text
Yeah.
there.
And then like random A, that's like, ooh, we took out that little middle part. Yeah, I should probably be using the correct typographic term there, but yeah, you know what I mean.
So second thing, no menu, like no standalone top level menu. There's just a hamburger menu. I do like the hamburger animation where it becomes like horizontal to vertical. That's quite nice.
Yep.
Really cool hover effects as well.
Yeah, they are. I like that they're pulling the color from each of the designs. That works really effectively. Well, except for that middle one.
Except this one, for some reason, that doesn't have one. Okay.
Yeah. So,
The this kind of decision to not have this equally positioned is really frustrating. Because it kind of breaks it a little bit. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, or whether or not he just, because the image assets are like different sizes, he didn't know how to like scale them properly. But this kind of annoys me because you know for sure, okay, this is the Oko Soccer Academy, and this is the stuff he's done. But then, if you want to know what he's done for these two, you have to kind of scroll down to, oh, okay, so this is it.
I feel like the tags as well under the names of each project is a little bit like, this isn't a blog. That seems strange. You don't really need to have those keywords. Maybe from an SEO perspective, that's a good thing, but it just seems a bit unprofessional. Like branding, logo design, web design, blah 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 blah. Like, if you're gonna have categories, then you should probably have a way to search by those categories. Are those clickable things, or are they just words?
No, this whole thing is one clickable element.
Okay, right. So that's just
Which takes you to the portfolio page.
of course, yeah,
Like for those individual portfolio pages, yeah.
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 So
Alright, down to the next section, which is about best graphic designs. Not sure why he's chosen to go for like the small like heading with the big paragraphs. Maybe it's to make it pop,
maybe.
but not really a fan of that.
Yeah, this definitely feels like a section that should have pulled his branding from the logo through a little bit more. Like the colors, I don't understand what that weird
Oh, this little line thing in the background is?
like. It seems very. This seems very much like something that came with the template, and they've just stuck with that.
Yeah, definitely would have liked to see something that was more in tune with their branding, actually. This is true.
Yeah, like, purple background, maybe like using the red for that button instead of that generic AF kind of little CTA, which also is in no way like that's not really a call to action. That's just kind of you barely notice it, so it doesn't really seem like it serves its purpose.
Yeah, the weighting's a bit off. Oh, and he can at least he's consistent with this style. So the small heading with like the large paragraphs. At least he's consistent with this. Clients I've worked with, which is just a splatter pattern of all the businesses that all the clients he's worked with, I guess.
Yeah, that is. Eesh.
It is.
It's very
There is way too much stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of different colors happening, a lot of stuff happening. The animation scroll is like really quick. It doesn't really give you time to like individually look at the logos. It's kind of just like and then on to the next. Yeah.
I would. This is like just an idea as an alternative though, but the way that his logo has that kind of 3D element to it, it would be cool if there was Kale, I guess you could probably explain if that would be hard to do or not, but kind of a 3D object that you could interact with. And that would also be cool for mobile as well as desktop. Kind of like a cube that as you clicked it would like rotate and each side would then procedurally kind of generate a different logo. Just an idea.
It would be difficult, but yeah, it definitely could be done, for sure. It's just... that also falls, unfortunately, to the place where if the client wants to edit it, it's going to be quite difficult to set it up for him to do it.
True.
But
True.
I'm sure there's always ways around it. I mean, it's worth it because you'll have, as you say, an excellent effect on both mobile and desktop if you can get it to work and look something different, and it certainly won't look like a mass of just stuff on your screen. Oh, so they don't link to the website?
No, so these don't seem to link to the actual client's websites. They just seem to be like essentially like a lighthouse.
A light box?
A light box? Yeah, thank you. Lighthouse sounds so much better. But yeah, a light box of the actual images.
Yeah, that seems like
Sure.
a very poor choice on their part. Like, I'm not even sure if this is just logos that they've done or if these are their actual clients that they've worked for. Because I know that there's that text up there, but you know, you don't get any information about what the work is that they've done, or if these are just logos that they might have designed over the course of how long they've been working for.
Yeah, exactly.
So with something like this, because I know that a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of websites where they just kind of mass, like they just put all of their clientele all on display, kind of like in this sort of format. And I think it's kind of really overdone, and it's also kind of tacky. What I would like to see more of is like showcases. So, for example, having a selection of maybe just a handful of these, but only have one on each slide, and then that gives like the chance to really showcase. Like you see, if this would stop moving, I could actually, yeah. All right, so if you just had like, for example, one logo here, and then you had, oh Jesus, and then you had like a description of the services that you provided, or you know, some sort of rundown or a portfolio of sorts on the right hand side. That way you kind of give some context as to what you've done for these clients, or like just some more background. And also handy if, you know, the actual logos went to the client's websites. I think that would be good.
Yes.
Alternatively, if you had like maybe like just a single line, so instead of 3 lines, just a single line of logos, but I would only really recommend that if each one of them like went to a client website, or if they even went to like a custom portfolio maybe. But just, yeah, this kind of grid is too much.
Definitely. No one is to see that much logo work unless they're specifically looking for it.
And the fact that I can't actually just stay on one particular
No
page.
pause on hover, eh?
Yeah, it doesn't pause. Plus, there's no hover effect. So the one thing I really liked about the topic was that they had hover effects over a lot of these images. These ones don't, and it would be really good to be able to have that for this, I feel. Oh, onto the piece de resistance. This little banger over here.
Yeah.
A random banner. A huge PSA. Check grammar and spelling, no matter what you're producing, whether it's offline, like physical assets, or online, like text or brochures or logos. Anything that you're using, like, doesn't matter. If it has words, double check, triple check, because otherwise you'll end up with something like this. Helping Perth businesses look like established enterprises since $999, which is just, I mean,
that's pretty bad.
English isn't even my first language, and even I know that that's terrible. You know what I mean?
Unless they were trying to play off the since 1999, but put a money sign
Instead of the
there
one.
for some reason.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know.
This is
I
just
don't
a
know.
poorly executed ad, I think. Like, I think it's... Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we don't obviously know the context of where, if they're using this anywhere other than their website. I hope not. But if they are, then that's definitely not working for... Even, like, the lower part, Meg, if you can scroll down a little bit. Just the bad... Nope. Up or go back up. That we'll get to that. Where the logo is on this image, like, down the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just the .com.au, like that purple against the red, terrible contrast. Like that you really that .com.au just kind of really sinks into that red because it's such a heavy color, and then so is the red. And it's like if these are your branding colors, you clearly need to work on. I think we can all agree that this website probably doesn't have a brand manual that they've been working off. There's not a lot of consistency in how the brand is carried through, and I think that shows especially just in that image there. So, yeah.
Do you have any recommendations on, like, for people that want to know, what kind of colors work really well with each other? Any sort of tools or websites that you could recommend
Well,
for people to use?
there's definitely depending on if you use Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, there are, apps like Illustrator have built-in color palettes that they can recommend for you. Pretty much all the apps do. Honestly, another thing...
Oh, sorry.
There we go. I would honestly say another good place you could look for color palette inspiration is Pinterest. I'm not gonna, I don't see any shame in Pinterest at all, but I think if you just look on there, you can find really, really good, examples of color palettes that you can use, because at the end of the day, it's really just about what works for your brand. So there's lots of color theory you can get into, there's lots of, complementary colors and all of that jazz, but you really just need to see something that works. So yeah, I would say for anyone who's wanting some inspiration for their brand, go on Pinterest, type in color palettes, and you will get tons.
Yeah. The one that I really like myself is this one here, which is just is actually from Canva. They've got their own color wheel. But yeah, so you can put in like a base color, and then you can choose like whether or not you want complementary, monochromatic, or and that kind of picks out, gives you your color schemes that complement that color. So I feel like if you need a starting off point, you can just look up sort of color wheels or something like that. That might help. But yeah, so the colors all over the place, considering as well the fact that now we've got this section here, Let's Work Together, which doesn't tie in with their branding at all.
No, it does not.
Which is kind of confusing.
It looks like something they pulled off Pinterest.
And the CTA is different.
Yeah. So
Button is different from the...
it's different from the Learn More, yeah. So inconsistency with the CTAs as well. That's big. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely been... that's just poor design. I don't really know what happened there.
Alright, let's do a mobile responsive test, shall we? Alright, so we're just going to open up DevTools and Dev12. I like the Galaxy. I mean the Pixel. Wait, why do they actually... Oh, they do have the Galaxy, but it's an S5 though. Alright, never mind. We'll go with S5. We'll see how this works on responsive. So, right now... See, so now these work responsive. Like, the fact that they're aligned like this actually works a lot better than it did on desktop.
Yeah, I do agree. That just automatically flows a lot cleaner. Yeah, and then there's still this bit, which is whatever.
That little that white brushstroke in the background actually gets more distracting on mobile. I don't know what it is, but I'm not too fussed.
Yeah, I
about
couldn't even see that on my desktop. I actually had to bend down to see if I could see.
Well,
what
there
you
you
guys
go.
were looking at. Yeah.
If that's the effect that it has, then it shouldn't even be there. Ooh, there's some big old logos.
Yeah, these logos are way too big. Ooh.
And moving still.
Yeah, and they move. Ooh, what is happening here? So this...
Oh.
That is... Okay, oh, whoop, okay, alright. Alright, so... For anyone that's not understanding what's happening right now on the screen, can we just get an explanation, Carol, as to why the screen moves like this when I'm not doing anything?
Basically, they've got what, 4 pages of images, and probably the last one doesn't have the same amount of images in it. So when it gets to there, it doesn't have to be as long now because they've just decided to do keep all the logos like they were from the desktop. I think they've actually gotten bigger from desktop, so they've like stretched them so they fill up the space. But yeah, now there's too many on one slide, and on the next slide there's not enough. So it's the slideshow is or the carousel is compensating by going up and down.
And how would you fix something like this, or what would be the workaround solution to something like this?
I probably wouldn't have 6 billion logos on my homepage. That would be my first solution. But for a real solution, I'd probably just keep it to 1 or 2 on a mobile per slide. That way, people who want to look at it, they can swing left and swing right, or swipe right, swipe left to see the logos, and people who don't want to see it can just continue on.
Alright. That's good, yeah. Oof, there's a lot to go through. Jesus. And now this banner, like on mobile, I would just have removed this banner completely, because that's pretty much just these terms and conditions are pretty much just ineligible. Like you can't read it. No. I hate the fact that I have to keep scrolling. This is really frustrating. This is like the worst user experience on mobile. The starter project, I feel like if there was a call to action closer to the top of the page for starter project, that might work really well, because you don't really get to any sort of considerable call to action. Like I wouldn't really consider the learn more like an important call to action, so you really have to get to like the very bottom before you have like a proper call to action, which I'm guessing just takes you to the contact us page or a form or something, and it does.
Yay.
So I'm going to go back to desktop view. So this is obviously the contact page, which has got their map, the details, fair enough, phone number. One big thing, especially that I see a lot on, I guess, smaller or simpler websites, is phone numbers that aren't clickable, right? So make your phone numbers clickable. That way, if someone is on their mobile, they can straight away just click the number. I know that some of the newer generation phones can do it automatically, but to help those out that don't have one of the newer generation phones, making this a clickable element means that you can click to call.
Oof, that is a boring form.
That is yeah, that seems like a very generic
That's default.
Yeah, I think that's straight out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's many things that can be said about that.
How are some ways that you guys
Better-
would improve this contact us page? Do you think from either like a design or like from a, just even like from a design perspective?
I would have moved the form below the contact information so everything's above the fold, because there's really no reason for all that empty space on the left and right of the form. I mean, even if you just did that, that form would probably start to look slightly better. And then moving the fields into the actual boxes would, just as a general thing, would make things look a bit cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the labels in as placeholders, so you don't have to have your name and then the box. You just have them all in one.
Also, I'm very confused by where this
Yeah.
blue has come from on the map. Is that supposed to be the... Because I thought the logo was purple.
I think that's the ocean.
But then there's...
I think that's the
But then
water.
there's like, I can clearly see there's like a box for the text on the side, and that's blue. But like, I don't understand the color scheme here. That's
What box? What box?
It's
like
meant to be the
where
water.
where the address is. Like
Yeah.
the blue behind it. That's different to the blue on the map. Like I can see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait, is it?
Yeah, I can see like it's different.
Yeah. It's yeah. You have to kind of tilt your laptop.
I can
a
only
little
really
bit,
tell
but-
because it's
Yeah, he's even left the lines in. There's actually white lines. Oh wait, no, never mind. It's because it's a Google
Yeah.
map.
So
So that
Nah.
yeah.
Oh,
it's
that's interesting.
Right.
interesting. Not
So
very-
you're saying so this water here is different color to this blue here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Well, I mean, that kind of just leaves me with more questions. Really, does. Why?
Why?
Why? Another thing that I think could work, instead of having like a form and then map, which is definitely preferable over this, is also just kind of creating two columns, which is have the form on the left hand side and then have this map. You can pretty much squish this and then have that on the other side like that,
Yeah.
so that way you don't know, you've got all information all above the fold instead of having to break it up. But I mean, there's multiple ways I feel like you can do that with the contact form, with the contact page. This probably isn't the ideal solution unless like he mainly just wants to deal with phone inquiries and he's not so fussed about form inquiries. That maybe then I can understand why he's gone with this first. But still,
I mean, if you don't want email inquiries, then just don't put a form.
yeah, exactly. Alright, cool. So let's have a look at, before we go into the profile page, let's look at the search function. Alright, search for brand. Not a fan of the throbber, especially since it has colors that like aren't even part of this brand. Alright, I'm actually a fan of this search page. Alright.
Yeah. It's cute.
Yeah, clean, easy.
Yeah, this is nicely broken up. So this is exactly the kind of layout that would be nice for his contact page, right? Like form or whatever on one side and then map on the other side. That would have been so nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, cool. So let's head into one of these portfolio pages and see what we're looking at. Woo. Perth Premier Soccer Training for Kids. SEO check. Let's see if the first heading is an H1. Alright, okay. Well, what the... Alright. Just going to ignore that.
That's a shopping bag.
It's a card,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
There's a
cars
card
in
somewhere
this.
hidden
Oh.
in this.
Oh. Oh dear.
Let's have a look at that.
Branding, logo design, and web design for Oko Soccer Academy. I'm a really big fan of like these little snippets on the side.
Yeah, very minimalistic. Lets the work speak for itself. Kind of not really liking the links because they seem to just be like it's
Oh right,
yeah,
yeah.
very very light change in color, so kind of hard to tell what's actually clickable.
Yeah, there's no real clear distinction between a clickable and non-clickable element. Except obviously the hover effect, which makes the links turn red, but the text turn red.
But I probably would have actually done it the other way around. I would have had them red and then have them go black when you click them.
Yeah, that's actually probably a good idea.
It would definitely help them stand out more, because at the moment they just kind of blend in with everything else.
Apart from that, I quite like this actually. This layout.
Ooh, keychain.
Yeah, yeah, I really like this actually. Very nice. Oh, you can also share.
Okay, that's
Also a fan of this.
yeah.
Love the share buttons. And you can copy this link to the clipboard.
Thank God.
Sweet.
Share it with all your friends. That is, great functionality for any website.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I wonder if all of them do the same thing. Let's have a look. I'm assuming they all use the same layout. Yep, so Sonic kind of the same hero image there with that H1. Let's see if it's an H1. First heading, very good. Benign energy. Tomorrow's energy today.
Woo.
Fantastic. Again, a lot of big bold text, which I think this guy just really seems to love.
And not that you really shouldn't have that much big bold text. Like, no one's that interested in a blurb.
Oh, I really like this. Showcasing like what the website looks like on different devices. That's cool. That's nice.
I'm not really a fan of this wall of images. This feels a little. It just seems kind of like a big dump of just images, and I would have liked a little bit more context, like we were saying, like you've been saying with kind of the 2-column thing. Maybe have a smaller carousel where one of these images is playing, and then next to it, a brief explanation of what you actually did. I designed this, printed it out, whatever, just to give a little bit more context to some of the work that you've done for the client.
Sure. I mean, I personally don't mind it. Like, it just is a visual smorgasbord. If he had just put in like the descriptions above and then left this, I actually wouldn't have minded that either. It's just nice to look at, I guess. I'm also happy that he didn't make these like clickable links with a light box. Thank God. Now this bit here, super confusing.
Yeah, this is just kind of feeding back into that using a template and then not really, because this is like there's even the search functionality and the share functionality all scream that this is kind of a blog template that someone's used, and then they've kind of just retrofitted it to do what they need it to. And this is a completely different form to their contact form.
I think this one's just posting comments, like their portfolio page is a blog post that people can comment on.
So it's a blog, and it's also got a shopping cart as well. So
Yeah, I spent a bit of time trying to find that. That's hidden in the background, but I don't think it does anything.
I guess that's just, if you are trying to do it, I'm going to hazard a guess and say this is probably a WordPress theme, and someone's probably tried to do this themselves. This is the reality of using templates. Sometimes you don't actually get what you want.
Yeah, I'd say you're on the money there.
I mean, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the mobile responsive while we confirm whether or not this is a standard. Yep, WordPress. Looks like a WordPress site.
Yeah. Node.js theme maybe.
I actually quite like this portfolio page on mobile.
Is that? But do you like the page, or do you like the fact that his images look nice?
Yeah, see that's the thing. It's I just like his designs, like that he's used for
Like
these
his
guys.
actual graphic design work is very nice. But yeah, this page is. Well, I mean, well, this page is. I mean, it's fine, I guess.
It is very template. Yeah, it's very stock standard. It's very kind of I don't want to say unimaginative, but I'm going to say unimaginative.
Yeah.
But it does what it needs to do, which is showcase like his design work. And yeah, like you said, like the design work is actually really nice. It would just be nice if the website and the web pages reflected that as well.
Yes.
Especially since in some of these portfolios he says that he builds the websites as well. So, you know, I would like to see some of that creativity also in his own website.
True.
What's his personal portfolio?
That's where you hope to see the most. Yeah.
Want to show off?
Yeah, these are some really nice. Yeah. Again, remove comment section. So, if anyone ever uses a WordPress site that wants to use post, because this is most likely a post page, make sure that unless you're kind of going for engagement where you want people to leave comments because you are actually using it as like a blog post. If you're trying to use a post for any other situation, like remove comments, it leaves you open as well to vulnerabilities to getting hacked, because bots love spamming comment posts like these. And also it's unnecessary for the end user as well. So for people that just want to look at portfolio, the likelihood of them kind of looking at this and leaving a comment like, yes, I love your work, or no, I don't like it, is quite low. Alright, so having been through this, overall rating, so out of 5, how would you rate it? Give me something that you liked and then something that you didn't like about bestgraphicdesigns.com.au. Isaac, you want to go first?
Sure. I will give it a... I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 5. I just feel like this website hasn't been customized enough. If you are going to use a template and you are capable of creating your own graphics, you should create a few of your own graphics and make your brand a little bit more consistent throughout the website. It feels more of a template website that someone's just put their work into than an actual portfolio of someone's work. And as we've discussed, it's kind of a blog, but actually a portfolio site. And yeah, that functionality really is jarring. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do, which is lead someone potentially to contact you. And that functionality just on the homepage itself seems like that's the last thing that the person who runs this website cares about.
And one thing you liked about the website?
About the website. I mean, the work's good. I think that I know it's, what every website does, but where's the big header image at the, beginning? I would have liked to have seen the work being shown off more, rather than just having these kind of like fragmented blocks that only show off part of the work. I think that for a portfolio website, it doesn't spend enough time showing off this person's really good graphic design work. Like, it's very impressive, but it's not the forefront of the website as it should be.
Alright, thanks for that. Kale?
Yeah, I think Isaac sums it up pretty well, but yeah, I would have to give it a 1.5 as well. I would like to have given it points to functionality, but as we saw on the mobile responsive, the logos are broken. It has a random comments field, no styling on the form for the contact form. Just that's just small things that would have made it better. I suppose the thing I liked is his work. I really had to think about it. I mean, I guess the portfolio pages are set out well. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. They are set out in a way that's easy to understand and does exactly what his website should do, show off the work. So that's the thing I say I like.
Alright. Well, I'm gonna go the other way and start with the stuff I do like first. So, I'm gonna still be honest and say that I will give this a 1.5 out of 5 from a purely website design point of view. There are a couple elements that I really did like. For example, hover effects on some of these. I would have liked to see some more consistency so that they all had hover effects as opposed to just one that didn't have one. I did like the search functionality. It's very simple. I mean, it's probably like a standard plugin, but regardless, I still like the implementation of it. I was also a fan of, in the portfolio or project pages, the share button at the end. I really like this. This is just nifty for me. I really like that. The things I didn't like are things that I feel like are very simple fixes. So, for example, having a leave a comment section on his project pages is just get rid of that. The biggest no-no from me, though, has to be the random banner that kind of like I feel like if this banner just didn't exist, that actually would have bumped up the site. I probably would have given it like a 2 or a 2.5 if this banner didn't exist. But the fact that this banner exists goes against pretty much the entire rest of the website. I mean, it goes with the color scheme of his logo, I understand that. But with the look and feel of the rest of the website, which goes with like much softer colors, it's just so out of place. And the since $999, I just, that should just be a meme.
Yeah.
That should just be a meme. Since $999, like, what is that? What is that? This will forever be burned into my memory. But yeah, so apart from that, I feel like if he did like a redesign, there probably isn't that many things that would have to be changed. I think just from like a design perspective, he seems to have like the creativity there with all his, offline assets like his brochures and his business cards and all that kind of stuff. So he does have like a good eye for design. I feel like if you just put that same level of talent into the design of his website and got like a proper developer to work with him, then this site could really do something.
True.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Cool. All right.